Torah portion, Chumash and Rashi. Parshas Nasso, the second Torah portion in the book of Bamidbar of Numbers, did a lot of counting, census taking. Now we go further in chapter 5, verse number 1. Vaydaber Hashem al Moshe lemor, and Hashem spoke to Moshe, saying, Tzav, command, is Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, Yishalchu, and they shall be sent, banished. Mina machane, from the camp, called Sarua. Anybody that is a Sarua, Tsaras. Tsaras is the skin disease, right? The Chol Zav, and anybody who has a male discharge, an unusual kind of discharge. The Chol Tameh Lanefesh, and all those that are unclean, meaning they come in contact with the dead. Tameh, impure, Nefesh, impure. Okay. Another booklet passed down. Thank you. Okay. So Rashi, in verse number 2, Tavis B'nai Israel, command the children of Israel. This passage was said to Moses, but Yom Shehukam Mishkan, and the day that the Mishkan, the sanctuary, was erected, right, which is described in the book of Exodus at the end, in Parshas Pekudei. It took place on the first day of
Nissan.
Very good.
I knew this test was coming up.
You passed so far. 1 for 1.
I'll go home now.
Right. So now, which means that this is not in chronological order. Why? Because the tally that we took up in the beginning of the parsha, or last week's parsha, was the first day of Iyar, the first day of the second month, right? So this is going back a month now. There are 8 passages of the Torah that were said on that day, right? As is stated in the tractate in the Talmud, Gittin, the Perek HaNizakin, the chapter HaNizakin.
What does it mean by sections?
What word? What are you taking? 8 different sections. Here, this is a section of the Torah.
Okay.
Right.
Like
that was said. Right. They're scattered, these sections. Right.
Okay.
And yet they were all said on the same day.
Okay. So it's
Torah scatters them for whatever purpose it scatters them. Right. But you're just pointing out that this is one of the 8 sections that are scattered, but yet they were all said at the same time on Rosh Chodesh Nisan, when the sanctuary was put up for, in its completion. Okay.
Do you know if this is the only place in the Torah where it says this is 8 sections, like related to a topic?
Now that's beyond my pay grade. I don't know.
Okay.
Good question. We'd have to look or see if there's a sikha from the Rebbe on this. Well, let's see afterwards if there is something. Okay. Continuing in Rashi, they should be sent away, banished, right, from the camp. There were 3 camps there. When they were encamped, when they would travel and come to a place they would encamp, there would be 3 encampments, 3 different camps. Within the curtains of the courtyard of the tabernacle, that is the camp what's called Shechina, which means divine presence. Encamped around the tabernacle, the sanctuary, was the encampment called the Levites' encampment. As we learned last week, if you recall, right? Last week after the count, we spoke about the way they were encamped on the four sides, right?
Yeah.
Three tribes on each side, equaling the 12 tribes, right?
And then the Kohanim were on the fourth side?
No,
No, okay.
no. Inside of the 12 tribes, which we didn't even mention yet, was the encampment of the Levites.
Yeah.
They were all around,
Yeah.
right? All around,
Okay.
more thinly, right? Or
You mean all around the three sides or all around the whole?
around the sanctuary, all four sides of the
All
all four sides of the sanctuary, right? That's the Levites. Misham, until the end of the divisions of the tribal divisions, so all four directions. Israel. That's called Machane Israel. Right? Now, why mentioning this? Because the verse says over here that you should banish these impure people outside of the encampment. So Israel. So the Zav, he was permitted to be in the third camp, which is the Israelite camp. But he was sent out from the two, meaning the Machna Shechina, right, the divine presence, and Machna Levia, and the encampment of the Levites.
Yeah.
The Tamil Nefesh, and the one who was impure by a corpse, Muter Afish Levia, was permitted even in the Levite section. But was only sent away from the divine presence, meaning you couldn't come to the sanctuary if you came in contact with a corpse, right? All of this is expounded by the sages in the tractate of Psachim, which, right, it's expounded there.
What is Zav referring to? Someone with Zaras?
Sorry?
What is Zav referring to?
Zav is a unusual kind of male emission.
Oh, okay. Because a person with Zaras had to leave even the camp of Israel.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So we see over here, it's interesting. I guess Rashi needs to explain it. Why? Because it sounds like they're all equal. Mm-hmm. Because it says an equal statement, right, to send them outside of the encampment.
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah.
Right? The one that's impure come in contact with a corpse only from Machne Shechina. Mm-hmm. The one who's impure from Zav is also Machne Levia, the Levite camps. And what she doesn't mention, but the one with Saras is outside of all three encampments.
Yeah.
So Rashi must be coming to explain something here because it sounds like it's all the same, but Rashi is making a distinction. So is he making a distinction based on the verse here, or is it based on previous knowledge? It must be, I would think it's based on previous knowledge because we know previously these laws, right, are being banished from the encampment. We learned this already in Vayikra.
Yeah. Right.
So why it's being repeated here? Good question. Let's see. Tamei la nefesh, the next Rashi, impure by corpse. Hamnisav litmei nafsha de nosha. Unkelis, right, who translates into Aramaic. He translates into impure by the bones of a human soul. Imerani and I say shu lashon atzamas adam. That Unkelis means tame, human bones, but lashon Arami in the Aramaic language. Aramaic is Aramaic language. And there are many examples in Aramaic word. For example, Bereshis Rabbah, the Idra Nus Shrik Tamaya, Shrik Atzamos, May his bones be ground up. Giving an example of where the word bone in Aramaic would be the word tmei. Okay.
Well, in the verse, it's Tanae, right?
Yeah. Tame. Yeah.
Okay. So is he just providing a translation to
Yes.
Aramaic?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Mizocher ad nekeva, from male to female, meaning both male and female. Tishalchu el mechutza machane, you shall send them outside of the encampment. Tishalchum, they shall be sent out. Below yitamu is machaneim, they should not impurify, defile their encampment. Asher ani sheichem b'seicham, that I am dwelling amongst them. Right? Which sounds like machane shchina, the inner one. Right? Well, that's the continuation of kol tamei lenefesh. Right, the end of the previous verse is that if you became impure by coming in contact with a corpse. So where can't you go? The next verse is telling us specifically for that impurity that you can't come where I dwell, which means Machane Shechina, right, where the tabernacle, where the sanctuary resides, right? But you could go into the Levite encampment.
Yeah, and this verse is just saying this applies to men and women.
So, well, it's saying that it applies to men and women, but it's also giving us the parameter because the previous verse didn't give us a parameter. It just said send out. Didn't send out how far.
Okay.
Here it's saying just send out from the one camp.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Clear?
Yeah.
Guys? Yeah, we're clear? Okay. Yasuchein b'nei Israel. And so they did, they did. The children of Israel, and they sent them out outside of the encampment, as Hashem spoke El Moshe, as he spoke to Moshe, and also Bnei Israel, so did the children of Israel. Interesting. No Rashi.
This whole sequence of events is happening before the giving of the Torah or after? I know it's the first of Nisan.
Yeah, Nisan, yes.
Yeah, but this is like after the giving of the Torah?
Well, you tell me.
Yes? No? I don't know. I don't remember when the Torah was given. Rosh Hashanah? No.
Tomorrow. It's giving tomorrow.
Yeah,
the 6th of Sivan. Okay. When? What year? The first year going out of Egypt. Mm-hmm. When is this? Second year going out of Egypt. Right? This is the second. This is almost a year since going out of Egypt. Rosh Chodesh Nisan, right?
Yeah.
Minus 15 days.
Yeah.
So when they went out of Egypt. So this is when the Mishkan was built.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, carrying the tablets and everything.
Right? The Mishkan was built, and on the day that the Mishkan was, put together for the final time, right after the inauguration, everything.
Yeah.
Then on this day, Moshe was told 8 different sections in the Torah on that day, teachings. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's clear now?
Yeah.
Remember, this is Rosh Chodesh Nisan of the second year.
Yeah.
Right? Rosh Chodesh Nisan the first year, where were they? In Egypt.
Yeah.
Right? They only came out on the 15th.
Yeah.
Okay? Okay, we continue. And Hashem spoke to Moshe saying, Daber b'nei Israel, speak to the children of Israel. Isha, a man or a woman, ki yasu mikol chatos, when they will do from any of the sins, ha'adam of man, limo ma'al b'Hashem, va'ashma nefesh ahi, that they will ma'al b'Hashem, translates here, acts treacherously. Yeah, I don't like that translation. I like the translation trespass. That person will be found guilty. Ashma means guilty, right? Okay, let's see Rashi what this is talking about. Yeah, we're in 6. He committed trespass against God. Harei Chazar, we see now that the Torah has come to repeat the Kosav Khan and writes over here, Parshas Gezel v'Nishba al Sheker. This is speaking about someone who robs. He robs another person, and he swears falsely with regard to his robbery. And this is already a subject that we had in Parshas Vayikra, Mal Baal Hashem, right? That a person sinned, he committed a trespass against God, right? And there he writes, this is in Parshas Vayikra, right, in the book of Leviticus, the beginning. And it says there that he was deceitful towards his friend. Benishnes Khan. So why is it being reiterated here? So Rashi says being reiterated over here, this law that we already learned, for 2 points. That are introduced here that are new. The first one is that they shall confess. It's written here, to tell us that a person is not required to pay a person who robs, right? And now we're talking about he swore falsely, right? So in such an instance, he has to pay the principal and he has to pay a fifth, right? And bring, so he has to confess his sin, as we'll see in the next verse, actually. And you're not required to pay the extra fifth over the principal and to bring a guilt offering, I'll be aiding by the word of witnesses. In other words, he robbed and he was brought to the court, right? The victim brought him to court, right? And he swore that no, he didn't. He wasn't a robber. Now, if witnesses come, right? So it's one word against another, right? So if witnesses come to prove that he did rob, then he has to pay a fifth more, has to pay the principal and a fifth more, plus he has to bring an asham, a guilt offering, right? That's what Rashi is saying over here. That's what we learn over here. Until he confesses about it, right? But if he confessed himself without the witnesses, then he doesn't have to bring the, he doesn't have to pay the fifth extra. And he doesn't bring, I don't think he brings a guilt offering either. So that's one thing that we learn over here, as we'll see in a moment. Okay. And the second thing that we learn, and that will be in verse number 8, in 2 verses from now, Al Gezel Ager, regarding a theft from a convert, Shu Nasso Kohanim, that it's given to the Kohanim. Meaning, if he swore falsely against a monetary claim, and then he confesses, so he pays the principal plus the fifth to the one who he committed the sin against. But what if that person died? So what does he do? Who does he have to pay? The heirs, right? Yeah. But a convert, right, possibly doesn't have heirs, because if a convert converted and doesn't have a family when he converted, right, then halachically doesn't have heirs, right? Every person has heirs because, you have parents. Like you have offspring, but if you don't have offspring, you came from somewhere. And therefore they become your heirs. You go back to grandparents, their children, and then they'll be cousins. It'll be cousins down the line, right? It'll be cousins down the line. So there will be an heir. But someone who converted, and this happened, didn't have a family, right? Passed away. Then his non-Jewish family is not halachic heirs to him, right? So he has no heirs. So who's it go to? So Rashi says this goes to the Kohanim. The verse will teach us that. Okay, but that we're not in that verse yet.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go to the verse 7. V'hizvadu, and they shall confess. This robber, right? We're talking about someone who acted treacherously, or if you will, trespass, right? Trespassing in being a robber, trespassing and also swearing falsely, right? V'hizvadu al chatasam, but they confess on their sin, asher also that they did. So he has to make restitution of the amount of his guilt, b'reishai. Um, One second. B'reishai, I guess on its principle. B'reishai means frame. B'chamishosa yosef halav, and he should add a fifth. V'nasan asher la'asham loy, and he should give it to whom he was made, who he's guilty to. Rashi in 7. His hashama b'reishai, his guilt in its principle, literally meaning on its head, but it means who a Karen, that refers to the principle. Shenishba alav, that he swore regarding. Right? Asher asham loy, and he has to give it to the person who he is guilty to. Lemishin is chayev loy, to whom he is indebted. So 1 second, I think maybe I didn't understand properly before. One second. Give me a second to make sure I got this. Aha. Okay, so so the verse is coming to it says here he confesses, right? But he confessed when there were after where there were witnesses. In other words, he robbed, he swore falsely, right?
Yeah.
Then witnesses came, then he confessed. So what our verse is adding over here that we didn't know from Vayikra is the confession. By making that confession, now he's responsible to give not only the principal, but the fifth more, and he has to bring a guilt offering, right, on the altar. So that's that. So the fact that you have to confess is added here. Okay.
Excuse me. The fifth isn't that even if I'm just trying to clarify for myself. The fifth extra is that after the confession or even when he was found guilty of robbery?
So that's what the verse is adding over here, that he confesses and he still has to give a fifth.
No, but the fifth, that's what I'm trying to clarify for myself, because after the fifth, there's also the
principal.
No, the principal, we know that's right, but the other, the offering.
Yeah, the offering, yeah, the offering too.
I thought the offering was because of the witnesses.
Yeah.
Extra, not the fifth. The fifth I thought since the beginning, because he already confessed. That's what I thought.
He only confessed after the witnesses. If he confessed before the witnesses, right?
Yeah.
Then he doesn't. Then he just has to pay back the principal.
Really?
Only the principal.
If he brought him to court and he said, "Yeah, I robbed him," so you got to pay back the principal. When do you have to pay more than the principal and bring the offering? Is you swore in court that you didn't rob.
Okay.
Then witnesses came and said, "No, you did." Witnesses were brought on to the court, said, "No, you did." He then confessed after the witnesses. Then he has to pay the principal, extra fifth, and the sacrifice.
So it's really about the oath more than the thievery.
For the extra,
For the extra, yeah.
yes,
So I
for
could
the,
take
for the
something-
false oath.
I could take something from you for 50 years and deprive you of it, and then just say, okay, actually, I took it from you, here's it back, and not have to give you anything more.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you'd be transgressing the will of God, but yes.
Yeah, that's what it is. That
Yes.
money is not gonna bring you blessings.
Ah,
That money is not gonna bring you blessings.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Robbers don't think that way, though.
Yeah.
That's why they're robbers.
Yeah, they even pray for. to help
Yeah.
you.
Okay. So, and you pay back the one you're liable to, right? If the pay owes the amount to a third party, the thief must pay the third party.
Okay, so if I take something from you, but you owe it to someone else, and I have to pay that to someone else.
Uh,
In other words, no, let's say I had something in my house that belonged to you. And then, and Jack robbed from me,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
But it belonged to you.
okay, just give it
But it
back.
was in my possession, but it belonged to you.
Yeah,
So it's got to go back to you,
okay,
right?
yeah. I imagine that would be different if I had like given this to you to like borrow, for instance, and
yes.
like that other halacha we learned.
Well, we learned that also, you would pay if it was, that's also a robbery. If you gave to Jack, hold on to it, and then he said it was stolen.
Yeah.
Really, he's keeping it for himself.
Yeah,
And he swore that in Basin. That's also called robbery.
yeah,
Right? Okay. V'im ein leish, and if there isn't to this person, goyel, a kinsman, he translates over here, means a redeemer, right? Goyel means like gula, right? Redeemer. Lahoshiva asham al elav, to have the debt restored to him. Asham amushav lashem lakayin. Then then it has to be restored. This debt returned to God, to the kohen. Milvad ela kippurim, besides the atonement of the ram. El is a ram, a kippurim of atonement. That will bring an atonement for him. Let's see Rashi. Im ein leish goyel. A person doesn't have a redeemer. Because the plaintiff who made him to take an oath, right? Made the plaintiff made the robber take an oath.
yeah,
The plaintiff died though, right? That's what we're talking about in the verse. Vein lo yorshim, he has no heirs. Who's that speaking about? We already said earlier, Rashi said that's speaking about a convert who never had a family,
yeah,
right? But I mean, as a Jew, lahashiva asham elab, to whom to return the debt, shenimlach zeh, when this guilty one has a change of heart, lizvadas halavayne, to confess his sin. Amar Rabbeinu, so our sages said, Ki yesh lecha adam b'Yisrael, do you have a person in the Jewish people, she'en la goyelim, that has no redeemer, has no heir, or ach, either a brother, or ben ach, or a brother's son, right, a nephew, or she'ar basar korev mimishpachas avi, or some other related kinship from his father's family, l'mailad Yaakov. You go back until Jacob, our forefather, right? You're gonna back if you go back up, and then you go back down, you're gonna find someone. Yeah, it might be your 100th cousin,
yeah,
right? You know, but he's still your cousin, so he's still an heir. In other words, right? So Ella ger shemeis, but this refers to a convert that died ve'ein lo yorshim, and he did not have children as a Jew, so therefore he has no heirs.
I imagine there would be a discussion somewhere else about like if you weren't able to identify like the closest relative, even for like the natural born Jew. Like if it was like your great grandfather had like a brother, but then like you couldn't find the brother.
Yeah, what would
I
happen
guess
is,
they're all in the camp though at this time.
yeah, I mean, this halacha for forever, right?
Yeah,
So yeah, I'm sure there's instances where you can't find, right?
yeah,
You don't know.
yeah,
Maybe there is someone who is, across the ocean,
yeah.
but back in the day without, they didn't have a WhatsApp, I can
No.
message you,
Yeah.
make a phone call or whatever. So, yeah, good question. Ashem Amushav, the return debt. Zekir and V'chaimish, this means the principal and the fifth, right? Because that's what the
Yeah.
debt is. The debt is both together, right? La Hashem la kohen. It goes to Hashem for the kohen. Kenoah Hashem. Hashem takes possession of it, but also the kohen, and he gives it to the kohen. Shabbat mishmar that's in that watch, right? So if it happened, this week, the Kohanim that are in that watch are doing their job that week in the sanctuary. They're the ones who get the money, the principal and the
But
fifth.
can they use it for their own personal purposes, or does it have to be like connected to like the?
Yeah, it is for their personal.
So they can do whatever they
Well,
want.
I mean, yeah, because it's not a holy object,
Yeah,
right? It wasn't, it's money we're talking about here,
Yeah.
right? We're talking about money, so it's not holy. And it's like if you were stolen from and you went to court, so
Yeah.
what's going to happen? You're going to get the money back, and you're going to be able to use it for whatever you want.
Okay.
Right? It's not sanctified in any
Yeah.
manner.
okay.
Nevad El Kippurim, aside from the Ram of Atonement, Ha'omer v'Vayikra, which is spoken to in Leviticus, Shu tzarich lo'avi, that one must bring. Right. In other words, we said you had to bring a guild offering to bring atonement. So aside from this, you also have to bring the guilt offering.
Yeah.
Okay? We're good?
Yep.
Verse number 9. Chol truma, and any truma. Truma means to raise up, set aside. The whole Kodesh Bnei Israel, for all of the holies of the children of Israel, Asher Yakrivu Lakoini Loyeh, that you will offer to the Kohen, Loyeh, to him it shall be. Let's see Rashi in 9. Chol Truma, all that is raised up. Amar Rabbi Yishmael, he says, do you bring the truma to the kohen? Isn't it that the kohen goes around to the granaries and gets it? The truma is the 2% of your produce, right? The meiser is the 10% that you give to the Levite.
Yeah.
2% you give to the kohen.
Of the 10%?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Of the remaining
90.
After.
90%. You
Yeah.
give 2% to the kohen, right?
12% tax.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but it's your granary. It's from your fields. The kohen, he goes and gets it. In other words, you don't have to deliver it to the kohen. The kohen comes around to pick it up, right?
Tax collector.
Literally.
Tax collector, yes, right? So, but here it says that you should raise it up for the kohen, but that's not the way it works. What does it mean raise it up? Give it.
Yeah.
Why is it saying raising it up when the kohen has to come to pick it up? Right?
You have to give it to him when he comes to pick it up.
No, so the question. So what is it? No, I'm sorry. So Matam Leimer Yakrivu Lakain. So why does it say that the children of Israel shall bring it to the kohen? It says Yakrivu. Shall bring it, but they're supposed to come and get it.
Yeah.
Right? Elo Abikurim. So these are the first fruits. Shenemar Bahem. Tava the Beis Hashem Alekecha, that you should bring it to the house of Hashem your God. But on what basis is the verse alone, I do not know. Ma yasa behem, what should be done with them once they're brought to the house of Hashem? Talmud Laimar, the verse says, L'koyin lo yeh. To the koyin, it shall be for him. So the verse comes to teach us over here, Ala Bikurim, about the first fruits, nim la koyin, that they have to be given to the koyin.
Okay.
I'm a little confused because I thought that's something that's clear in Parshas Kisavai. It's where we learn in Parshas Kisavai in Dvarim, right, in the 5th book, we learn about Bikurim, and I thought there it said that you give it to the kohen. So maybe it doesn't. We have to look at the verses there. It sounds from Rashi that if we don't say it, and the only place we learn it is over here. Right, Rashi is still like kind of.
So all this is just saying is that the first fruits of of your harvest, like that's what you're giving to them. You're not just giving to them like any part of it. You're giving them the first.
That Truma, so it's not speaking to Rashi is saying it's not speaking about Truma.
Okay.
Because Truma, the coin comes to get it.
Yeah. Okay.
And here it says you're giving. So the first Bikurim, which is first fruits, not Truma, it's a different giving to the kohen, right? Yeah. That you go and bring to him because you're going to Jerusalem with it.
Okay.
And you give it to the kohen, your first fruits.
So that's outside of the Truma.
That's outside of the Truma, exactly. Rashi, because it says the word Truma, so he was going with the impression that it's speaking about Truma, but he says it can't because the verse says Yakrivu, that you have to bring it, right? So you don't bring to the kohen comes to get it if it's Truma. So, but because the word Truma means to separate, it means to set aside, it means to raise up, right? Those are all adjectives, right? It can also mean truma, which is a noun of a thing that you give to the kohen. But here it's not the noun. Okay, last verse for today. The ish eskadashav lo yiyu, and a man, a person, his holiness for him it shall be. And whatever the person gives to the kohen, that shall be his. In other words, the verse is saying that some things are going to the person who's bringing the offering, and some things are going to the kohen.
Yeah.
Let's see Rashi in 10. So a man's holies shall be his. The fish and matnas kohuna olivia. Since the gifts for the Kohanim and the Levites have been stated, Yochel, I might think that they may come and take it forcibly. Talmud Laimar, the verse says, Ish is Kadesh of Loyiu, that the holies, they shall be his. So what does it mean it's his? The truth is, it's not his, right? He's offering it. So what do you mean it's his? In what way is it his? It's his to offer, but which is obvious. But that's what the verse is coming to tell us. What's it coming that it's his? Magid shetevas hanosum labailim, that the goodwill and the pleasure belongs to the owner. In other words, the owner can decide who to give it to. So it's his, not inherently, because inherently you have to give it to the kohen.
Yeah.
Right? But it's his that I can decide which kohen to give it to.
Okay.
Right? If I have a cousin that's a kohen, I can give it to him. If I have a friend that's a kohen, I can give it to him. I get to choose. I can't have it for myself because these are gifts for the kohen, but I have at least tovas hana, which means the pleasure of deciding who it shall go to. Wow. In that respect, it's his.
So the most popular kohen might get everything, and then some might not get anything.
Yep, exactly. And the sages expounded many different interpretations on this verse, but Sifri and the Sifri. So that is, I guess, a simple meaning. Rashi now saying the Agada midrashic interpretation is a man's holiness shall be his. What does that mean? In other words, giving a different explanation now. One who withholds his tithes, and doesn't give them, the tithe shall be his. That is, in the end, that his field will be nothing but 1/10, which it used to produce. In other words, if you're not going to give the gifts to the Kohanim and to the Levites, so then it's going to be yours, like what you give to the Kohen. In other words, only 10% you're going to produce from something that you got 100%. Okay.
So is there a choice in that way then?
Maman harbe, much well. Sorry?
Is it a choice in that way? Like,
What do you mean?
could you have the discretion that you could say, you know what, I'm not gonna give it to the Cohen?
Freedom of choice, what God gives us, right?
But it sounds like here it's like commanding, give it to the Cohen, like, you know.
Yeah. And if you're not, so this is a midrash, it's not the simple meaning,
Okay,
right? Simple meaning is I get to choose which coin I want to give it to, right?
Yeah.
That's what it means, it's mine in
Yeah.
that respect, right?
yeah,
Right? But the midrash explanation, right? Not simple meaning, is that if you won't give, it will be yours, that which you should have given. You'll only end up with that which you
Yeah.
should have been. You should have given 10%, for example, right?
yeah,
And you would have kept 90%. But if you're not going to give the meiser, you're going to only be left with the 10%. In other words, you're going to lose out. So,
okay.
in the end, of course, you have choice for anything. You
Yeah.
have choice.
So even though it's transgressing Hashem's will not to give it to the Cohen, if you keep it, it's still yours. Like, it's not like it's like becomes at some point the property of the Cohen, like it is yours, but then that's all you're gonna have.
But it's interesting
Yeah.
what it says there in the book. It says that eventually you're gonna produce only 10% of your.
That's what we just said. That's what Rashi said. Exactly what we just said, right?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Let's take a quick moment, see if we have something here. So in verse 9, we said, Rabbi Ishmael said, these are the Bikurim. Right, these are the Bikurim. that you bring. And the verse is coming to teach us over here that you give the bikurim to the kohen, right? That's Rabbi Yishmael said this. Rabbi Yishmael, he was of the opinion that at Sinai, God only gave the generalities of the mitzvahs, and later in the sanctuary, he gave the details. The debate on that. Okay. So in the book Shmois, that is speaking at Mount Sinai, mitzvahs bikurim is just given a generality. It says the first of your fruits from your land, bring to the house of God, without saying what to do with it. But in our parsha, it says that was said in the sanctuary. God spoke to Moshe in the sanctuary. Here it brings all the details of what you do and what is that. You get, not all the details, the basic detail that it belongs to the kohen. You give it to the kohen. Okay. I'm going to do a siyum on Tanya. I'm going to finish the first book.